Japan has a history of comfort women, which is that they would kidnap or sexually traffic a lot of East Asian women and probably Southeast Asian women as basically sex slaves to work in military brothels for soldiers. But when the American men were pouring into Japan, they also set up a station for the Americans as a breakwater, so they didn't rape local women, basically. And they had to service 15 to 60 men a day. And then the center had to be shut down because of rampant STDs. After the station set down, they reported that rapes rose from like 40 a day to 330 a day.
Oh my God. And I could totally imagine like being a Asian woman in a world in which your race basically makes you an automatic target because, again, you are not seen as a person, you are seen as a category. Hey, welcome back to Big Asian Energy. I'm really excited to talk to today's guest because, we are about to dive into some deep stuff and probably I think I'm talking to somebody who is the most raw and willing to be honest about these topics I've met so far, which is a tough one because today's topic is what it means to be an Asian woman, especially in a westernized world, not just as a stereotype, not just as a fantasy, but rather a real human being. And today, the guest that we're speaking to has experienced this in probably the most, I would say, direct and sometimes hurtful ways possible. We're talking to Kaila Yu, the author of Fetishized. She's coming out with a book, memoir, that explores what it means to grow up as an Asian woman in a culture that honestly objectifies, exoticizes, and misunderstands so many Asian women. Kaila's career has spanned across so many different fields, from modeling, music, media. She was one of the first Asian American pinup models to break into the mainstream, and then later on became the lead singer of Nylon Pink, an all-Asian rock band that toured internationally. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, the LA Times, and so much more. And we're going to dive into all the topics, some possibly shocking facts of the topics around beauty, power, survival, and what it means to be an Asian American woman. Welcome to the show, Kaila.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I just love big Asian energy. I feel like.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to big Asian energy, right? Big Asian energy is all about, unapologetic self-ownership. And I usually like to describe it to people as we bring in, change makers, ceiling breakers, and a few troublemakers. Do you feel like you might fit in the troublemaker field?
Yeah, probably. I'm always in the black sheep of my family, my poor Asian family.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's start there because what you talk about is blatantly, I would say, anti that identity, right?
Yeah.
Of like being the quote unquote good girl in the Asian family space. What was your upbringing like?
My upbringing was very normal Asian American. We grew up in Upland, California, and, we went to school and our parents had us go to Chinese school and then after school Kumon and after school piano. And we were expected to get A's. Yeah, it was very typical.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to all of those things. Okay, so you went through Kumon. I just have a funny image of you going through Kumon. So you went through Kumon.
Yeah.
You did the thing. You went to the classes. You got A's. All right. What happened next? How did that end up with where you are now?
I mean, it's so accidental. I guess I naturally, and I didn't know this at the time because I was so obedient, but like I'm naturally very, very rebellious, I guess. I learned later on. I really didn't like being this invisible nerd, which I was until like maybe sophomore year of high school when I kind of met the cool Asians at our school. I mean, what was lucky about Upland, California, we only had like 3% population of Asians, but like we had cool Asians. Like they took over our parking lot. They like shot at white people if they like talk shit.
Damn.
That happened once. And it was by a watching who I think came from Hacienda Heights, but he still did it in Upland. We claimed it for ourselves because it made us
Nice.
seem like scary and badass. But we
Yeah.
like took over a complete parking lot. It was a small parking lot, but we completely took it over. And every day,
Yeah.
everybody would roll up in their like fixed up, like they weren't when they were fixing up their Camrys or something, like
Oh yeah,
whatever
yeah,
car.
yeah, 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 yeah. The Civics.
It wasn't like a
Yeah.
fixed up like Supra. It was like a fixed up Camry or a Jetta. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, growing up in Vancouver, we definitely had those kind of parking spaces as well.
Yeah.
But of course, we had a lot more Asians even back when in high school. Okay, so you were, in this environment. How did that lead into you going into fashion and then music?
Well, during high school, there was very little influence of like Asian female
Hmm.
celebrities that I connected with.
Yeah.
I can't even name one really, but like in high school, I discovered from my Asian guy friend Sung Hee Lee, and she was this
Hmm.
huge Playboy model on the internet. And once I discovered her, I kind of became obsessed because I was like, oh my God, there's an Asian woman like this, like doing
Hmm.
whatever she wants, not following
Yeah.
the rules and like looking stunning and having these millions of guys at her feet. And
Hmm.
I was like somebody who was never even asked to a school dance. So I was just like not very cool or popular. And I just felt very ignored by the opposite sex. So I was like, I'm going to chase being Sung Hee Lee because she just, seems to be at the top of the world in
Hmm.
my mind, to high school me. So ever since that time, I kind of had it in the back of my mind, like, oh, there's like this other life out there.
Hmm.
And then finally I get to college and I first go to UCSD and I moved to San Diego. I'm completely free from my
Hmm.
parents' restrictions because there was no way I was going to pursue anything while I was living in Upland. Um,
Yeah.
but once I got to San Diego, the rave scene was taking off. So then I started
Hmm.
getting to drug use. And then it was just like
Hmm.
all the rebellion kicked in full on.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it was
Yeah.
that seed planted in high school that I wanted to pursue that pinup world of modeling. And then it was during college where I started to like explore into like how I
Hmm.
might break in.
Yeah. And in your book, you dive deeper into that experience, right? I mean, talk about drug use and, that whole time. And I would say your trauma that you had experienced, drugs was a way to deal with that. Is that right?
Absolutely. I like honestly, like many women, experienced a sexual assault, and I
Mhm.
stuffed it down so much that I totally
Mhm.
forgot about it. But
Mhm.
I will say that I naturally just kind of had low self esteem for whatever reason. So
Mhm.
when I did ecstasy for the first time, it just felt like I was filled with a love I had never experienced in my life. And
Mhm.
I was hooked immediately because I just never had that
Mhm.
feeling before. And it also escaped me from all these things I was like hiding from myself or like not wanting to face in my life. Definitely.
Hmm. And what would you say those things were?
Well, my low self-esteem, like I was just very uncomfortable in my skin. I was like
Mhm.
very shy growing up and I wasn't very comfortable socially, but on I was very
Mhm.
comfortable, like
Oh
it's
yeah.
like
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I was free
Yeah.
and like just like social
Yeah.
and just like didn't have any of the restrictions and I wasn't
Mhm.
unconfident and like it just removed
Mhm.
all of it. It made me a different person.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. How did that later on lead into your path going to music?
Um, that was so I ended up doing I left UCSD and I went to UCLA and then I started really
Mhm.
pursuing modeling and then I got into the import scene. And then I was
Mhm.
doing that for a couple of years and I didn't really feel fulfilling after a while.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I had always kind of wanted to sing when I was a little kid, but I didn't see a pathway to it because there was no
Mm.
Asian singers in America.
No.
Yeah, at
No.
all, at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is around the time MySpace was taking off, and then I had
Mhm.
built like a big following on MySpace. And that really gave me the platform to just put out music on my own.
Mhm.
So I just put it out on my own and started touring with that. And then I eventually
Mm.
started a rock band with a bunch of girls. But it was really social media that allowed that platform for
Mhm.
me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And now we get to dive in from that perspective into what I'm guessing you probably experienced quite a lot of as you were a model in the imports and then as a singer. And before we dive into that set, I just want to bring up from your book, in the very, very beginning, before we get into the book, there is a kind of like a forward section, and it's an Urban Dictionary definition of Asiaphile.
Yeah.
And I loved this because I was just like, I loved it as in like, I'm so glad that you put it up front because I think this is the key thing. It goes Asiaphile. Noun. The term applies to a non-Asian person, particularly a white man, who has yellow fever. Thinks all Asian chicks are hot, usually can't tell the difference between a homely and a cute one, just as long as she is Asian. And then in italics, Lucy Liu is Asiaphile's favorite.
Because she was the
So
only one.
she was the only one. So there was Lucy Liu, and then Kaila Yu turn on the scene. What was your experience with being Asiaphiled?
Well, so I wasn't even aware of the Asian fetish, I think, in high school. Like I was, you
Mhm.
know, not paid attention by the white boys at all. So there was clearly no like Asian fetish happening when I was growing up. I think I really only encountered it when I like had a website and was visible on the internet. Because even when I went
Mhm.
to college, I only hung around Asians. So like obviously
Mhm.
they weren't being fetishy to me.
Yeah.
Um, but like when I started my website and I made my screen name available because I like to talk to people, and then I would
Mhm.
just get so many comments from white
Mhm.
guys saying like, "Oh, I love Asian women. Like they are
Oof.
so like sweet and nice and like so much better than those bossy other girls." You know? And you're like, thanks.
It's
Yeah.
so cringe.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Ah.
Yeah.
I'm like I'm like crawling out of my skin when you hear when you hear said that. Okay, so let's introduce this because I think that a lot of white people may not understand this because their
Mhm.
first thought is, well, I mean, why is that such a problem? Why can't I just like what I like? I can't tell you how many white bros I've talked to are just like, well, it's just my preference
Yeah.
and it's not a I'm like, so what exactly is the difference in this case of being an Asiafied fetishized and just a preference?
Yeah, I really want to stress that all white men who date Asian women do not have an Asian fetish. It's funny because I have this friend who like is married to an Asian woman. First Asian
Yeah,
woman he ever dated, just like they happened to fall in love.
sure.
But
Sure.
he gets it all the time, like little comments and digs here and there. And he's
Oh
like, I
yeah.
definitely don't
Got the
have
yellow
an
fever.
Asian fetish. Yeah, he gets that. And that's really unfair to like a guy who just
Totally.
falls in love with an Asian woman.
Yeah.
Um, and also, there's not a blanket like this is fetishization and this is
Hmm.
not. It's like a very much a case by case issue. And I would say, like, does this person think of Asian women as interchangeable and disposable,
Hmm.
like a sexual object, literally?
Hmm.
And definitely some of these men fall in that category. I would say most of
Hmm.
them maybe don't. But why it's harmful is that it ultimately can lead to like violence. Not every
Hmm.
time, not maybe not most of the time, but enough of a time for it to be problematic.
Hmm. And when you say violence, like physical violence.
Well, there's actually it's very underreported like how much violence happens against Asian women. Um,
Hmm.
I only became aware of it really with the spa shootings. Like it just
Hmm.
isn't publicized that much. And
Yeah.
after that, there's another author, Elaine Shea Chow. I think that's her complete name. And she wrote a book. I forgot the title now, but it deals with the Asian fetish a little bit. It touches on it in
Hmm.
a fiction manner. Really good book. I'm
Hmm.
recommending it, but I don't remember the title right now. Disorientation. Just I think that's the name of her
Disorientation.
current book or old book, whatever. Um,
Okay.
look up her name. I don't know
Okay.
the title off the top of my head. But like she wrote an article for like The Cut or something that I quote in the book,
Mhm.
and it's called What White Men Say in Our Absence. And
Oh.
it's like, yeah, the way white men might talk about Asian women when not there. I think she was sitting on the subway somewhere in
Mm.
like a different country, and maybe let's just say it was China, and the white guys were just kind of talking about Asian women in this
Mhm.
derogatory way, not realizing
Mhm.
she understood the language or whatever.
Mhm.
And she was like, in that article, she detailed, because there used to be an article online. I think it's been removed now. I think it was on Reddit, but it was like, the acronyms white WMAF, right? It's white,
Yeah.
male,
Yeah.
Asian.
Womath.
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
like the
Womath.
number of, it was just listing all the violence against Asian women. And it
Oh my
was
gosh.
number one, a shocking amount. And number
Mhm.
two, why haven't we heard of these things? And
Mhm.
number three, like some of the violence, it was like
Hmm.
women being drowned in acid after they were dead to like disintegrate the, like it was like limbs chopped off. It was
Jesus.
just like
Oh my god.
horrifying things. And then a lot of these were by men they knew, not like a serial killer. They were by lovers or,
Wow.
men they associated with. So,
Uh, damn. That's fucking terrifying.
yeah. I mean, it was
Imagine, yeah. Yeah, and I could totally imagine like being a Asian woman in a world in which your race basically makes you an automatic target because again, you are not seen as a person, you are seen as a category.
yeah, because
Um,
it's like when a guy says to you, I love Asian women, it's like you think
like
that
what does that
makes
mean?
me like that. I'm just like a
Oh
group
God,
of
yeah.
like whatever, like you
Yeah.
just like all Asians. Like there's no
Yeah.
individuality to it.
Yeah, I remember a friend of mine wanting to, well, I mean, an ex-friend of mine perhaps, coming to town and was like, "Hey, like," and I was just like, "Yeah, let's like get some friends together, let's go hang out." And he's like, "Yes, and bring Asian girls." And and then like as a separate message, like for emphasis was only Asian girls.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and I
Wow.
remember just going like, him and I have not talked since. Like that was the last message. I think like that was the last conversation we had
Yeah.
because I was just and of course we didn't meet up because I was just like I don't even know how to begin to address this, but it is that mindset, and you see this talking about Reddit, you could see this in subreddits like Passport Bros. You could see this subreddit in so many subreddits in
Oh, I
which there's
haven't seen these.
conversations.
I just have to go look at them.
It's not worth visiting, I promise you. But like the whole point of Passport Bros, in case anyone listening does not know what it is, it's predominantly white men who go to third world or developing environments or societies, usually in Southeast Asia. It's very common, where their economic advantage allows them to date people who would not date them back at home, and they would go on and create these videos of like, oh, like Western women are the worst. It's like, well,
Yeah, I
no,
always see
Western
that.
women just right, like they're like Asian women are the best because they just listen to whatever you want to do, and they're obedient, and it's like, well, no, because you are financially disadvantaged, like abusing them, and they don't recognize the irony behind that, but it's still so common. It's not that they're seeing this person and being attracted to them. They're seeing the idea behind the person and essentially minimizing them.
I mean, I'm assuming they're not going there looking for a girlfriend. So they're just going there to like take conquest as many as possible. Did you ever
Well,
watch the
yeah.
White Lotus viral moment?
Oh, the one where, oh, yeah, 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 where he's talking about, coming to
He's
Asia, the most
the
recent
example
season.
of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that and why it is that that's such an issue. I mean, you in your book, I'm just going to, by the way, I'm going to take a quick pause. And I love the chapter titles,
Oh,
and I'm just going to read it for anyone who's. So
okay.
this is the chapter titles: Introduction, Daddy, Geisha, Butterfly, ABGs, China dolls, bad Asians, bunnies, exotics. So there's not Lucy Liu, candy coated sugar sex. Uh, okay, so let's dive in. to this writing of this book. Tell me a little bit more about how you came to write this book.
It was very accidental. I had no intention of ever writing a memoir in my life, or
Hmm.
really, like, I wrote this one book once with my best friend, but it was like, oh, we want to try to be speakers. That was like really the motivation. It wasn't like real, and it was self-published. But this
Hmm.
one, what happened is that I was travel writing for a while, and then the pandemic hit, and all my travel
Hmm.
writing got canceled, and all my trips got canceled. And then my best friend and I, Kiki, who was the former guitarist for my band, we were like, okay, we finally have time to learn TikTok because we had so much time. And we just spent that year trying to figure out, like, we would post 5 videos a day, trying all
Mm.
kinds of content under the umbrella to see what the audience wants to hear from you. Because I do feel like the TikTok algorithm back then very much like parsed down your truest self.
Hmm.
She took off like really much more viral than me with guitar videos, because that's what she is, a badass guitar player. And
Hmm.
me, when I started talking about the 2000s Asian American era, like those videos started to go viral. So I
Mm.
just really started leaning into talking about all the forgotten culture from that time. And then I started
Mm.
to reflect back on that time I didn't really think of that much, honestly. And about a year in, the spa shootings happened. So
Mm.
this is also in the middle of like always so much talk about stop Asian hate and everything. Like
Yeah.
I had never seen in my life such a wave of Asian hate.
Mm.
I didn't
Yeah.
really experience it in Upland. And I don't think I ever experienced it personally, except for like a bunch of trolls on the internet. But nobody's ever
Hmm.
yelled at or said something like blatantly racist to
Super
me.
racist.
Like
Yeah.
microaggressions, yeah, probably a ton of those. I don't even remember. But yeah, nobody's blatantly said anything. And now they were like violence against little old Chinese ladies on the street. And then
Hmm.
in the middle
Yeah.
of this, the spa shootings happen. And then I think a lot of the women felt really gaslit, because it was like they denied that it was racially motivated. And they definitely did not say it was sexually motivated or had anything to do
Hmm.
with a fetish. But it
Hmm.
became very clear after like some other reports came out that he did have a sexual addiction that he was trying to get rid of. And he
Hmm.
instead took it out on these women that he thought were
Hmm.
objects, really. Like, the
Yeah.
instead of working on himself and like solving his sex addiction, he took it out on the Asian women, who
Mm.
in this situation were like women who are just trying to survive and feed their families. Yeah. They're also kind of, the whole discussion about Asians being a monolith. This subset of
Hmm.
women and a lot of Asians that are living in poverty are not something we discuss that much. And I think that was kind
Hmm.
of amplified. So at that time, I thought, like, I don't know how it came into my head, but like, how did I contribute to this? Because I really played up the fetishism of my 20s, and I like had a lot of those type of men subscribing to my website and stuff. So
Hmm. Yeah.
I ended up writing an article for Newsweek, and then that got a discussion started, and that kind of inspired the book ultimately. Long story.
Hmm. Yeah. That's powerful. When we go through, you talk quite a bit about your own upbringing and your family experiences. How have they reacted to the book?
Um, here's the thing. My poor parents, yeah. Uh, I don't think they're gonna read the book. Like, I don't think Asian parents really read English books, right? I don't
No.
know if they've ever
Yeah, I
read one
haven't.
in their life.
My parents got as far as to be excited for the book
Yes,
when
yes. Like,
I
did
had
your parents
like a
ever
Wall
read your
Street
book?
Journal come out, and I literally gave them a translated version, translated through AI,
Oh,
and I
wow.
don't think my mom's read it yet.
I love how Asian parents just don't care to actually
She's like, it's fine.
but it is like,
Did you talk about me now? I'm like, yeah, a little bit.
yeah.
Anything I need to be worried about? I'm like, well,
Yeah, I mean, a little bit different than mine, I
yeah.
guess, because mine have a lot more to worry about. But I definitely did
Yeah.
sit them down recently, and I was like,
Hmm.
hey, there's a lot of like sexual assault and drug
Yeah.
usage, and a chapter about you, Dad. But like, I love
Mhm.
you. But they're like,
Yeah.
okay. Um, they were pretty nonplussed about it.
Okay.
I think I've wore my parents down. I mean, they obviously know about like, that I did nude
Yeah.
modeling and stuff, but they've never
Sure.
addressed it. They've never like we've never
Yeah.
spoken about it.
Yeah.
Um, so
It's a
yeah,
messy thing to talk about for parents,
yeah.
especially when you start diving into things like assault and, fetishization. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to come through because I think I think their generation may not have been given the vocabulary and even the emotional permission to be
Yeah, the
able to
emotional
sit and
permission.
process it
Yeah.
really. um I mean, you compare him to the Sea King in Anderson's Tale, and so there is a positive to it, but it's a tough thing for him to, I'm sure, to sit in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just males in general, right? I think that's why like the patriarchy is harmful for men because it has expectations of men shouldn't show as much emotion. And
Yeah.
I know plenty of men who are very vulnerable and emotional. And luckily
Yeah.
these days that's allowed a lot more, but definitely in that generation it was not acceptable.
Mm, no. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier that you have some shocking facts when it comes to this. And I'm really curious to hear what some of these facts are and how it relates to the book.
Yeah, this is when the one that sticks out the most to me is a dark, shocking fact. But
Okay.
so there's a chapter in my book called Geisha, and it's about totally dedicated to memoirs of a geisha because that book was such a huge influence on me. I was
Mhm.
obsessed with because there were no Asian books then.
Yeah.
There was Joy Luck Club, and then Memoirs of a Geisha came out, and it was so exciting. And that book
Mhm.
was beautifully written.
Mhm.
And not everybody knows it was written by a white man. So it's like through that lens, right?
Mm.
And in the book, the geisha says, "Oh, after World War II, when the American soldiers came to Japan, she was like, oh, the American soldiers were much nicer than like we were told, or something to that effect."
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then, but the true facts of what I dug up while researching this is that when the American forces came into Japan, Japan has a history of comfort women, which
Mhm.
is that they would kidnap or sexually traffic a lot of Korean women, other East
Mhm.
Asian women, and probably Southeast Asian women as basically sex slaves to work in military brothels for soldiers.
Mm. Mhm.
And they did this with Japanese soldiers, but when the American men were pouring into Japan, they also set up a station for the Americans as a
Mm.
breakwater, so they didn't rape
Mm.
local women, basically. Um,
Yikes.
and the women's recounts from there was that the sex was like nothing they'd ever encountered. It was like ghastly and animalistic. They had to
Mhm.
service 15 to 60 men a day.
Mhm.
Um, and then the center had to be shut down because of rampant STDs. After the station set down, they reported that rapes rose from like 40 a day to 330 a day. So, yeah. Um,
Oh my god.
yeah, exactly. So, when you say the Asian fetish is not harmful, this idea of a available Asian woman, it's built off like kind of military instituted prostitution. Because the American
Yeah.
military would do this also. They would send soldiers after, say, the Korean War or the Vietnam War. They would send them to Thailand, where there was like red light centers and women, or Philippines, and women could be bought for the price of a cigarette. And that's like
Mhm.
that's your reward, like Asian women.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Right. Commoditization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still feel like in today's world this is still something that is a constant thing? Like, are you still seeing it as prominently these days?
Not, I mean, I don't think most people have an idea of the military and like colonialist
Oh, no,
background.
no, just this perspective of the commoditization of
Oh,
Asian
okay.
women. Yeah, like we're not going to go that far yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I would hope the U.S. government is. Oh, sorry.
I don't
Oh,
know. Yeah,
hmm,
I mean, different things may be happening in different countries now. I don't think we're
for
warring with
sure.
any Asian countries at the moment, right? But yeah, Is it still prevalent? I would think things maybe have improved a little bit. It's like not as bad as before, but I still get so many white guys like messaging me like, "Oh, I have an Asian wife." And then they'll like speak on something as if that gives them authority. And sometimes they'll
Mm.
even argue with me and I'm like, "Just because you have an Asian wife
Ooh,
doesn't give you the authority to know more than my lived experience. Second of
absolutely.
all, why are you messaging me if you have an Asian wife? Does she know?" Because I would not be okay with my
Yeah.
husband messaging some random chick on the internet.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, unless I
It's
happen to be friends with this guy and he happens to be married, if we've never met before, it's a little, yeah, why?
yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know that Big Asian Energy is officially out, and you can go and pick it up anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, etc. If you've ever felt like there's something stopping you from reaching your full potential, if you've ever felt like you want to have that unstoppable charisma and confidence in the work that you do, as well as just the way you show up in life, this might be the book for you. It is a book that is jam-packed with research studies, advice, case studies, stories, and of course, so many different techniques and takeaways, including communication, as well as mindset, as well as confidence, and all the other topics out there. It just won one of the best books of 2025 on Amazon. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go take a look. And finally, if you have a few seconds, can I also ask you to leave a quick review for Big Asian Energy? It not only means the world to us to hear from you, but more importantly, it does absolutely help us in reaching more audiences. I hope you're having an amazing day, and thanks again. Have you done a lot, since you've been writing more about this topic and addressing it, have you gotten any pushback from the public around this topic?
Absolutely. I post about the Asian fetish a fair amount, and it's hilarious because when I post about it, I'll inevitably get some very angry guys who will message me and
Yeah.
saying, "How dare you accuse me of having an Asian fetish?" And I'll be like, "Who are you?" Like, I don't even
Yeah,
know
like,
you.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not
what?
directed at you. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Like, so
Did I name you in the
yeah,
article? I'm
exactly.
sorry. Yeah,
So
did I name?
strange. Yeah. So yeah, I can imagine that when the book comes out, hopefully they'll read it and at least understand. But probably they won't read it, first of all, and then they'll just be really mad at the titles.
Mhm.
That's probably what will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think they're actually really addressing? Because there's definitely a lot of projection happening, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you legitimately, well, okay, why would that offend you? They're
Yeah.
probably, it's first of all projection, and the second of all, there's probably a lot of people saying it to them in their own personal
Mhm.
lives. So I'm not the first one who commented on it, not to them directly, but like they're probably getting direct comments about it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, there's like male entitlement in there too. I think that that has to do with patriarchal structures, not only related to Asian fetishism, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's some of that, like, how dare you question my preferences? Like, I can like whatever I want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Especially when it comes through. And I think that usually the reason why there's anger is because there's often a nugget of truth
Oh, yeah.
underneath it. And there's a lot of justification and mental gymnastics that has to happen when they kind of go through all that, right? And I think this is why it is that for a lot of Asian women, it's hard to talk about.
Mhm.
It's hard to talk about it with their friends. It's hard to talk about it in public, even if they face this type of judgment, this type of minimizing, this type of fetishization on a daily basis, because talking about it brings about that anger, brings about that negativity, and it's already so hard to face in public when you're talking about something so personal and vulnerable, and then to have people come out and getting angry at you. How dare you
Yeah.
single me out, a complete stranger who you have never met
Yeah.
before, and talk about my fetishization of you? You deserve it. um and I think that is you recently wrote an article on Teen Vogue talking about a recent event on Love Island. And it was a really of course, this event had gone really viral. I'm just curious, can you talk a little bit more about the event and why you wrote an article?
Yeah, definitely. So Sierra Ortega, and I also watch Love Island. So
Okay.
like, are you like a fan? I'm embarrassed to admit because I'm not sure it promotes like family values or anything good. But it's so addicting to
We're allowed guilty pleasures. Yeah.
I mean, China called it like a scourge on society and like banned it or something, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if
Oh,
that's
damn.
true. I
Okay.
saw that on social media, but I could imagine
Oh
it's
boy.
banned by China. But basically, Sierra Ortega was a contestant, and then they looked back at like her older videos, and she had said the Chinese C word slur,
Hmm.
referring
Yes.
to eyes. And
Hmm.
she not only said it, but she basically said, "My eyes look too Asian, and I need to like get Botox to fix them." So
Hmm.
obviously, a lot of women were offended by that, or
I
just the
wonder
fact that
why.
she was using the word very, very casually.
Mm.
And I'm very against cancel culture. Like, I don't like piling on someone because of a mistake they made.
Hmm.
Um, I think from writing this article, because the way the article got inspired was because I posted a video about it, and there were arguments in the comments about why it's not a
Mm.
slur. And it was all
Mm.
non-Asians explaining why
Of
it
course.
wasn't a slur. But
Yeah.
what I learned is that there's a huge portion of the population who genuinely didn't think that word was that bad.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of believe that was maybe the case with her, and it's mind blowing. But I think
Hmm.
the incident in that way is good to illustrate,
Hmm.
like, hey, we were going to speak out and tell you this word is a problem. And now a
Hmm.
bunch of people have been educated.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think the education part of it is a huge thing. I feel like all of these things that we're talking about, fetishization, the use of slurs, really are all part of a greater part of like, you can't really be racist to Asians. There's this
Yeah.
very quiet, subtle belief of like, Asians are doing well, so they're not victims,
Mhm.
so it's okay. Like, racism isn't real racism because they're fine. And there's also another layer of like, oh, and like I talked to an Asian person, or kind of like you said, like, oh, I have, an Asian wife. And when I brought it up, they didn't, cry and throw a fit and talk about how horrible it was. So therefore, it must be okay.
Mhm.
There's this belief that still to this day continues to exist as, like, let's just hand waving.
I
Do you
will
feel like,
point out
mhm.
that the comments that were arguing were not white people. Because I think white people know
Interesting.
this is not our place to comment on this. But like,
Yeah.
it was other people of color arguing that it
Hmm.
wasn't a slur and it wasn't
Tell me more.
that bad. So I think, there is like some people who say that Asians are not people of color because they're so white
Yep.
adjacent and they're
Yep.
so successful, and they're ignoring that I think like the highest poverty group is like Asian in New York
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Um, but
With
yeah,
not a
there
lot
is
of
that
wealth.
perception.
Mhm. So what is it that hmm, because that is something that keeps coming up, right? Is the sense like we're not, because I've also gotten that message. I remember when I first talked about this, Asian American experiences, these issues and these topics. It was two things. One, it was really vulnerable to talk about. I felt like I spent most of my life trying to pretend and hide my Asianness in order to preserve my white adjacency, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And I even had, and like you said, like the biggest people who spoke against it typically were actually not white people. White people are all like, yay, go for this. Aside from one who came out and is like, you called yourself a POC, a person of color. You're Asian. You're not a person of color.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had to explain to, again, this white person of like what person of color means.
Yeah. So
And like,
what are we if not people?
so what are we? Yeah, like, like, do you see me as white? Like, is that like, where do we land on
Yeah,
that?
we
Uh,
literally are not white, no matter how
yeah,
adjacent you may think we are.
yeah, and it's these complicated kind of topics, but I do find that a lot of Asian people have a general like hesitancy to talk about it. They don't want to point it out because by talking about it, they're almost outing themselves as Asian.
I mean, the model minority myth, a lot of Asians believe in it. Just like, why
Yeah.
can't the whole stereotype is like, they did it. Why can't everybody do it? And I don't want to take, like, yes, I consider Asians to be a people of color, but I will not deny like my personal family's privilege is very
Hmm.
different from some other groups that might have suffered and had like much more trauma in their lineage than my family has had. I don't want to take away from that at the moment, but that doesn't
Hmm.
change that I'm still experiencing forms of racism, right? And it's
Hmm.
not like a competition to like who had it worse.
Hmm. Yes, this is key. It's not a competition. It's not the Olympics. Like at the end of the day, what we're really identifying is there are effects, there are experiences that happen that are harmful to people. Let's just point it out so we can educate ourselves and then move on from it so that we don't have to linger in it. We don't have to keep talking about it.
And
What
this
would you? Mhm.
separation is just us playing into white supremacy, who invented the model minority stereotype to separate us from other ethnicities. So we'll spend our time fighting each other instead of uniting against the real problem, which is systemic
Yes.
racism.
Yes, absolutely. And we are actually seeing it working in some
A
respects
lot, yeah,
in
still.
today,
Hmm.
right? Like I think that, we are still seeing people coming out and there's so much infighting
Yeah.
around what is it that it means. I think that there's a lot of split within the Asian American community about where we want to land and
Yeah.
how we want to be seen. And so much of this comes from, oh, we don't want to mess with the fact that we are currently being accepted into the little club and we're okay. So let's not mess with the status quo. And I think that's creating more problems than
Yeah.
it's actually solving.
And there's also like Asians all come from non-individualist societies, right?
I
Like
don't
it's
know.
not like
Yeah.
America is about the individual, and we
Yeah.
are kind of our ancestors primed to like believe in the group.
Yeah. And don't mess with the status quo.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
rock the
definitely
boat.
don't.
Like,
Yeah.
don't come out. You have no idea how many times I've talked to people, even people who have wanted to be on the show, who I've actually had to turn down because I'm like, there's a very clear of like, I just don't want to talk about race. And I'm like, dude, do you know what the show is called? like, like I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to associate my reputation to being too Asian. And I'm like, I don't know if you've looked yourself in the mirror, but I could probably say you're Asian. Like but we try to hide it, right? How has that felt? Coming out to decide to write about specifically this memoir isn't just about your experience, but the lens of being fetishized, the lens of all of these different topics of being an ABG, like these topics of ABGs and the geisha and all these kind of various tropes that get played out.
I just feel like there's a subset of us like bad Asians that are being heard from. Like, I did not hear my voice in different um like Joy Luck Club. I love Joy Luck Club, but those are
Yeah,
definitely model Asians, like
yeah,
model like the model minority Asians. But
yeah.
like there's a huge subset of us that like have experienced um trauma maybe inflicted by ourselves, but like
Hmm.
that isn't being represented. And the fact that Asian fetishism, everybody knows about it. When I talk about the topic to white people, every single one has been like, oh, yeah, I know this guy, or like my brother has that, or something. Like everybody knows it. It's not rare, but
Yeah.
we're not like
Yeah.
really talking about it that much.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we all seem quietly aware of it? We all kind of like nod along and when these topics are brought up, but why are we not talking about it? Why are we not addressing it? Is it
Because
fear? Is it
I think
avoidancy? Like,
people don't think it's that harmful. Nobody, it's like, who
hmm,
cares? He loves Asian girls, whatever, you know?
true.
And there are more horrible things going on in the world right now,
Hmm.
technically. But yeah, I feel like um, what I would like people to come away with from reading the book is that it can lead to violence, and
Hmm.
enough that it is problematic.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. So violence being a major one. I think we could also talk about the impact it has on not just physical violence, but emotional violence.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
just imagine as an Asian woman here, whenever you don't date an Asian guy, you have to consider, oh, does he have, like, you always have to consider this every single
Hmm.
time. And like, then if you're with a guy who has dated one other Asian girl or more, you're like, oh, that's always in the back of your mind. That's actually what that
Yeah.
book is about, the Elaine Shea Chow book. is about, like, I think she dated this like white professor, and then one day she's digging through his photos and sees that all his exes were Asian. Like,
Oh gosh,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's definitely psychological like dehumanization there when you're always having to consider, is this guy just liking me for like some
Yeah,
sexual fetish or like behavior
yeah.
that he hopes I have?
Yeah, like, am I filling a trope? Am I
Yeah.
trying to be more submissive for him? Am I trying to fill these characteristics and roles? And I think that's the struggle, is that when people talk about, oh, I quote unquote, I like Asian girls, it becomes a question of like, are you talking about the physicality, or are you talking about the culture that you impose?
Mhm.
Right? It's like, sure, yeah, if you have a patriarchal society that is white dominated, that already puts people into some level as kind of socially below you, I'm going to use that word. Um, then are you actually enjoying the person for their physicality, or are you just hoping they'll fit into subservience?
Yeah, and it's also interesting, like what your friend said or your former friend said
Yikes.
was only Asian girls. Like, why? Like, you can't, like, why is it always only?
Yeah, like, why not attractive girl? Like, and
Yeah.
and it's that inherent part of it, because you know that when they talk about only Asian girls, the Asian is fitting a very specific stereotype,
Yeah.
right? It's very specific stereotypes. You know, they're not talking about, oh, because of their complex social experiences and intelligence, and right? Like, we know what you mean. And
Mhm.
it is that fetishization that gets continued. I mean, we're a porn category. It's a strange thing to
A
exist.
huge porn category, like one of the biggest porn categories.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
oh, I bring
that
this up. This is another statistic from the book. It's like,
okay.
okay, first of all, with pornography, like when in the early 2000s, they came out a list of like the top 20 or 50 Asian female porn stars. You can't even
Yeah.
name 10 Asian singers, but you can name 20 or whatever porn
Oh my
stars.
gosh.
Um, I don't think at that time you could even name 20 actresses in like early 2000s. And then
No.
also like Pornhub's top categories are like Asian and hentai and all these categories.
Oh,
But when you go through the top porn stars, almost none of them are Asian. So meaning just interchangeable Asians, not like an
yeah.
Asian star, because any Asian
Yeah.
will do.
The any Asian will do topic is really at the core of
Yes,
this.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter if it's dating or relationships or porn, or for some, positions in jobs, wherever it is, it's just interchangeably Asian,
Mhm.
right? We fit in the look, we fit into that identity, and we fit into that role. And I think this is what it is that's so difficult, because there are other layers attached to this. Being in the Asian female role exists not just in the West, but it exists in Asia as well.
Mm.
There's an expectation
Yeah.
constantly to fit in. So a common thing that I hear about is people kind of going like, okay, for women, who am I supposed to be? What it means to be Asian, and why it is that so many Asian Americans have this feeling of, I'm not Asian enough, or am I too Asian? And especially for Asian women, what kind of Asian do I want to be? Do I want to be the tiger Asian or the panda Asian?
Panda.
It's like, right, like the cute, like, maybe especially going through a book, like, or maybe the bunny Asian, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is it that is that archetype that they're supposed to fit into? And very rarely is it ever brought up like, no, you could just be you.
Yeah, there's really a polarizing set of choices that are presented by like media. I mean, not
Yeah.
now. Now it's changed quite a bit, but back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And even now, I would say it has improved significantly. We are starting to see more complex roles and such, and we are seeing more and more representation. But I mean, on a personal level, I'm like, I still would love to see even more.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
right. I still think that we don't have. We're discovering that Asians can be more than just being Asian. It's,
Yeah.
the goal isn't more Asian representation. It's just representation and like being hired to play the character, where we're just people
Yeah.
and not an Asian person.
Yeah, not an Asian.
Right? The funniest thing is that always comes back down to it. We actually just want to be seen as people. We're not there's a quote in your book that I highlighted as like, we're not rugs, plants, birds, or objects
I mean, they
to fit
literally
into
used to
the
call us Oriental, like white
yeah,
objects.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or exotic.
Yes. Yeah. Very common
Or
one.
exotic. When I travel to Europe, I've gotten that a couple of times. You're so
Oh,
exotic. It was
exotic.
Eastern Europe, so I'm like, that's okay.
No, like Asian get the point of why representation matters so much is now there's like I go onto TikTok and there's all these hot white girls who have like a Korean or Asian guy thing because of K-pop.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
literally you can make the public like anything if you present it as the ideal.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Or
they're
just yeah.
we've just been fed the white guy and the blonde Asian woman for so long,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Are there any stories from your book that you really want to highlight for readers before they go pick it up?
Um, this is more a lighthearted, funny story, but related to the acting thing, kind of. My band once was hired to do the theme song for the movie, and this movie was like a Kill Bill, not Kill Bill, but you know, that kind of hard-boiled kind of Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino
yeah.
style. I had like a couple actors from his movies making cameos. And the centerpiece of the movie was like the practice of placing sushi on a girl's body. Like the main female character in the book worked as a sushi model, I guess. And
Got it.
so we knew that going in, but the actress playing that particular role happened to be white. And I
Mhm.
don't think there were a lot of Asian women in the movie, but we were brought on and we recorded this song that I still think is really good. And then we sent it to the producer, and the producer said, I'm going to come up with a treatment and I'll send it over to you guys. He sends it over to me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because it's like, oh, Kyla's naked on the table with sushi on her. And like all the other bandmates have a scene where they're naked with sushi on them, and then she like stands up and like is like furiously tosses the sushi off her body, and then she only has like the leaf parts stuck on, you know how they put leaves
Yeah.
on the girls to put the sushi on them. And then the
Right.
producer was like, oh, don't worry, it's very classy, like pussycat dolls, like not like whatever, like
Yeah.
untasteful at all. And then somewhere it's mentioned that he'll be placing these appliances. He called the sushi's appliances on my body or whatever. And then we're like, I was like, he must have went online and saw that like I did pinup modeling and think I'm
Mm.
okay with this. Like, but that's not how we're presenting the band.
Mm.
And even though we wore sexy stuff in our music videos, it was no sexier than Britney Spears. You know, we were never
Mhm. Yeah,
naked
yeah,
or half naked.
yeah.
Um, and then we argued back, like my manager wrote back and was like, this is definitely not ever mentioned to us. Like we would not comfortable with this. And what about you use the sushi model from the movie and put her in for the sushi girl? Because she's doing it
Mm.
already.
Mhm.
And we could find you some models who can do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was like, no, that's like super confusing. We don't want to give away the movie. We don't want to use the actors from the movie. And he's like, okay, let's just put a pin on this. We'll revisit this later. Never heard from him again. And then a year later, when the movie came out, we saw there was a white dude band who did the music video and used the white sushi model from the music video in the video. And the white guy
Oh.
with sushi on them.
Oh, come on.
And the song, I thought our song was much better, by the way. But like, yeah,
I'll bet. I have a feeling people are definitely gonna go look that up.
yeah.
Amazing. So this book is going to, I already feel like, challenge so many people's perceptions and discussions and conversations around what it is to be an Asian American woman, as well as your own personal stories and the journey that you've gone through. Can you tell us a little bit more about when it comes out and where people can get it?
Yeah, it comes out on August 19th and it's available at bookstores everywhere. And I'm really excited. On the book launch day, I'm doing like a signing and a talk at the Barnes and Nobles at the Grove in Los Angeles. And my in conversation partner, who will be on stage with me, talking with me, is Margaret Cho, who's an absolute icon. And actually, she's quoted in the book because she has spoken out about Asian fetishization countless times.
Amazing. I can't wait to go check it out. So, yeah, if you're on your phone right now, take a quick moment, go onto Amazon, look up the book. It's called Fetishized. Pre-order it if it's not out yet, and if it is already out, you know, go and hit that buy button. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Kaila. Really appreciate your insight and all the stories you have shared.
Thank you so much. It was fun.